everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
This time we're covering the third Fast and Furious movie, Tokyo Drift.
And this movie goes in a whole new direction by having car enthusiast,
I guess,
Sean Boswell, Bama boy, ventured to live in Tokyo with his father and discovers the world's underground car drift.
Yes, it didn't go anywhere. Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and occasionally some future podcasts and all the Paws videos.
Thank you for joining us, subscribing, and sharing our videos. It really helps us out a lot.
Yes.
Now, this movie originally released in theaters June 16th of 2006. This was the third movie, as we mentioned, in the Fast and Furious franchise, based on an article written in Vibe magazine, if you're not familiar with that, called Racer X by Ken Lee.
Right. And like we said, this one is an entirely different movie. It says in the same universe, but it does not focus on Brian or Dom at all. It's on a completely new set of characters. And we learned that originally the idea was to expand the world of Fast and Furious and have the movies focus on different characters each film and have Dom be connected in some way, but going different parts of the globe and having characters from them involved in racing.
Another reason that happened is because Vin Diesel does make a cameo appearance at the end of the film, which is fantastic the way they did it, but he wanted to leave. And they had to make the pot sweet for him. He asked for the rights to...
You make choices and you don't look back.
No, the sci-fi movie. He asked for the rights to...
It was something he plays a character.
Pacific Rim. He asked for the rights to that, and he told them what he wanted to do in the remainder of the franchise, I think, as far as being involved in production and things. They gave him everything he wanted, so he returned and made a cameo appearance at the end of the film.
Right.
But we almost had an end to the Fast and Furious franchise.
Right, with just a trilogy. And what was sort of the irony thing about this is that, you know, the actor playing this teenager is not a teenager, but you just have to let that go now. This is just what they do. And when
it worked!
When he gets in trouble for doing he accepted a dare to do the drag racing at school and caused a lot of property damage, and he's one of those kids that gets in trouble all the time because of a bad home life and everything. So the mom sends him to be with the dad for a while, all the way in Japan, so she got a break from him. And it's supposed to be getting him away from all this, from cars and racing and all that. And what's hilarious is that she sent him all there to get away from it, and then one of the first things he sees is underground drift racing in Tokyo. So it's like, okay, look, no matter where you go in the world, every country has underground drift racing. You're not going to escape it.
So this movie was a brainchild of several people. First is Justin Lin, who began his directorial debut, and he became the director of the next 4 movies.
Wow.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift through Fast and Furious 6.
Yes.
Chris Morgan became the screenwriter, not only for this movie, but also all the way through The Fate and the Furious. And then the producer was still Neil Moritz for this one and the next movie.
Right.
So all of them came together and culminated in this movie that you said is unlikely.
Right.
With a teen who's not a teen. Well, how did the public like it? Well, it's 104 minutes, 4 minutes shorter than the last 2 movies. Had a budget of $85 million. So it went from 35 to 70 to $85 million. And earned $159 million at the box office. Now, it made way more than it took to produce it. But the take went down.
Yeah.
Versus the first 2. And part of that was probably because Paul Walker and Vin Diesel were in it, unfortunately.
Right.
But this movie did well standing on its own.
Yes. And one of the biggest draws into being for the ones who watched the first 2 movies was the introduction of Han, who is now we know is a fan favorite.
Hi, Han! From Better Luck Tomorrow, which we finally got to see
Right. And what's funny is that when we watched it, there was a line in there that was said near the end of the movie, is before we knew it, the life was going fast and furious. And he was not in the movie yet. So it was like foreshadowing, didn't know it.
So how did this happen? Well, Justin Lin was the director for Better Luck Tomorrow. And Han's character, actually, Han Lu was a character in Better Luck Tomorrow. So he actually took this character from that movie and made him a part of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Right.
Reprising that role and bringing it right in here. And it was absolutely brilliant.
So Better Luck Tomorrow is technically in the Fast and Furious universe.
Yes. So let's talk about the cast quickly because it's not the same as the regular movies.
Right.
We have Lucas Black as Sean Boswell, Bama Boy as he kept calling himself, and you'll find out why I keep saying it.
Right.
Bow Wow is Twinkie. Sung Kang is Han Lu.
Yes,
because
that's his
his name. We have Brian T, Natalie Kelly, Sonny Chiba, Leonardo Nam, Brian Goodman, Zachary Ty Bryan, and there's a few others we're really not familiar with. We'll go ahead and give them shout outs. Kiko Kitagawa, Nikki Griffin, Santoshi Sumabuki, Kieshi Toshika, and Jason Tobin and Linda Boyd. We're not familiar with them, but we became familiar with who they are because of this movie.
Right.
And as we said, this movie really stood well on its own.
It did, for sure. You could watch it with or without the other movies being involved with, prior knowledge of them.
And it ended up being fun, engaging, entertaining, and it still had that family vibe.
Yes, just in a different way.
Extra characters, right, who became a part of the regular franchise.
Yes.
Not only Bama Boy and Twinkie, but also Han. I keep saying Bama Boy because that's what he calls himself online. And he has this Alabama drawl because he's really from Alabama in real life.
Yes.
I could sit and listen to this man talk all day long. He just has that drawl and is friendly and he's engaging. He makes you just want to listen. So,
yes.
I keep repeating it. So, I'm going to talk a little more about Hot Han, a Han Lu character. He went on to make a brief appearance in Fast and Furious before returning as the main character in Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, F9, and Fast 10. What was interesting, if you've seen this movie, and it's not a spoiler because the movie's old.
It's like almost 20.
Is that in this movie you thought he was dead.
Right, and people were pissed about that.
And they should have been. Because you just ended up loving him from the beginning.
Right.
Even if you hadn't seen that movie, and which we hadn't at the time, you just liked the character.
Right. And so much so that when they did some latter movies, in order to keep the character in, they were saying that it was taking place, these movies were taking place before Tokyo Drift, like chronologically. So they were seeing like events that happened prior to Tokyo Drift, and they managed to squeeze him into 3 or 4 movies before they had Drift catch up and have the incident happen. So it's kind of funny how they reworked him back into the movie after seeing how popular he got. Like, okay, they want him back. How are you going to make this work? They expect him to be that popular.
I think what I really liked about this is it was a little more hard edge than the other 2 movies because in Japan, the street racing is harder, more hardcore.
Yeah, because
it's
Japan.
In the U.S. And the characters were more hardcore. You didn't have Yakuza characters.
Yeah, Yakuza street racing, yeah.
So,
and they,
it went there.
Yes,
and it made it different and more interesting because you weren't going to see that here. And it gets the distinction, I should say, of being the only movie to have that in it. And I wonder if when they make spin-offs, because you know there's going to be spin-off movies, you just know there are they going to return to Tokyo and do another drift type movie?
I could really see them doing something like that. And they said with these characters here, it's a whole different attitude. Like, it's like when you watch the anime and when these people in a group or they're experts in one thing, no matter what it is, one thing, they automatically become elitist and look down on everybody, especially if they're American or foreign, or like, oh, you ain't gonna come in here and mess with us.
And then, of course, Sean Boswell, I'm just going to call him Boswell, or Bama Boy, falls for a girl there.
Of course.
And Dominic makes an appearance after what happens to Han. And he's challenged to a race, not Dominic, but Boswell. And first he's not going to do it. Well, Dominic tells him that Han was family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it makes sense here.
After he was, and he only came to Tokyo to pay respects and find out what happened because Han was family.
Right.
So you still had that family intricacy in here, and then again you had Boswell and Bow Wow be an addition to that family.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you have the introduction of a character here who later on, when Han comes back, you find out he rescued a girl, a child, and ends up being her daddy. Not her daddy as biologically, but he takes her in and rears her as his daughter.
Yes.
So Tokyo Drift is not just a one and done, unimportant facet of the franchise. They made this movie by writing in all these different things. An intricate part of it, where the events that happen are important to the unveiling and the story. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yes. And despite what critics may have said about the film, this one was influential for lots of other movies and shows. And the biggest one we got, because it actually ended up with us acknowledging the film itself, is if you watch the show Symbiotic Titan from Cartoon Network, there's an episode they have called Roar of the White Dragon, and the entire episode is an homage to the Tokyo Drift movie, just cut down to 20 minutes in the episode, and they even play like the music you hear in the trailer and it sounds a little bit like it sounds like a cowbell playing, but part of it when you get to the underground racing part of the film, and it has its own little Tokyo theme to it. That is what they are also imitating when you see the Symbiotic Titan episodes, a whole homage to it. So it's not just, like you said, just a throw it in there, just doing a movie to be a movie. It was still influential even when it didn't feature the other characters.
Absolutely. So Tokyo Drift brought in over $23 million on its opening weekend, placing it number 3 behind Cars and Nacho Libre.
Oh my god.
Now, it was a limited release movie in Japan with a different name, Wild Speed 3. The U.S. box office was $62,500,000 and grossed another $96 million internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And according to opening weekend polling by Universal, the audience score was 58% male and 60% under 25. Doesn't matter. You will just absolutely love this movie. It's fun. It's engaging. It's enthralling. You like the characters, even though you're just being introduced to them. You love them immediately, even Twinkie. You just love them. And everybody that keeps coming in, you love them. Now, as you mentioned, it was not a critical favorite. It got a 37% from Rotten Tomatoes, who we don't listen to anymore.
Right.
And some of the other, like the Hollywood Reporter, Baltimore Sun, gave it some praise for the driving sequences, saying they were eye-popping. And that's what helped it to stand out. Mm-hmm. But they really didn't like it. But again, it doesn't matter because they kept moving forward.
Yes.
Ignoring the criticism. And they were allowed to continue moving forward because it was making money. Even though it made less than the first two, it still more than doubled what it took to produce it.
Yes. And this is one of those rare instances of a movie where the critics can be wrong about a film that's really good, and the film does have some merit, and does have a story, and does have a purpose, and you're actually enjoying what you're watching, and can be appreciated years later, unlike some other movies that were made recently that aren't going to get that status.
Wish. Okay, so lastly, this particular movie has become a favorite with car enthusiasts who saw the film, I should say, in this series, most specifically dealing with car culture and focusing on cars themselves. And critics and fans have come to appreciate Tokyo Drift for introducing Sung Kang and Justin Lin to the franchise, the simple story, stylish direction, and that the film never takes itself too seriously.
That's
you
true.
did mention. So it's described as the movie that kept the series alive, since Vin Diesel, as we mentioned, had abandoned his other projects and came back with Lynn at the helm.
Yeah.
So Christopher Nolan even says that this is the first film that became his favorite and made him, he has a soft spot for Tokyo Drift.
Cool.
So if you have seen Tokyo Drift, let us know in the comments. Do you love it as much as we did? And if not, tell us why in the comments. If you haven't seen it, it's available everywhere to watch and to buy. Watch it, enjoy it, come back and tell us what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos for the anime series, anime shows, all things animation, and a little bit of live action now and then.
Absolutely. And thank you again for your support. It means the world to us. And as always, you are a special.
So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.